Welcome, everyone. My name's Kevin Allison with the Marion County Soil and Water Conservation District in Indiana. And today we're going to be looking at the Indiana cover crop tool and how it works. So thank you to my organization, Marion County Soil and Water Conservation District, North Central SARE, Clean Water Indiana, and the support from the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. Kara Berschneider is on this title page, but she is out in the field right now. She may join us, but that's okay if she can't. I'll relay her messages. But I'd first like to let Megan Ayers introduce herself, if you could, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Ayers. I am the Indiana Small Farms Conservation Specialist here in the south of the state. We also have a team for the North and the Southwest Central, as well as the Great Lakes region in the Northeast. Please reach out to us for any questions that you might have with regard to these conservation practices. We love to work with small scale growers as well as with growers who are interested in putting more conservation on their land and perhaps looking at some government assistance or tools. We can offer technical assistance and soil testing. We are a nonprofit organization, so everything is free to you as a grower. So please reach out. We do want to connect with you to help improve your farmsteads in any way that we can possibly support you. So thanks for your time, and we appreciate that you're here learning about this calculator. It's great. Kevin does an amazing job.
Thank you, Megan. If you have any questions along the way, just go ahead and put them in the chat. If you need to, if you need to use your voice, then just let Megan know in the chat, and we can unmute you. And yeah, that'll be great. So, with that, I'm going to go through a slide deck. I think there's like 20 slides, and then we'll switch over to the tool and actually show you how it works. And then examples are probably the best way to see it. So just a brief overview of the purpose of cover crops. So they are, grasses, legumes, forbs, plants that you can plant usually after vegetable harvest. And the purpose is to reduce erosion, increase soil health, organic matter, they improve like water or moisture management. They can suppress weeds. I think that's a big reason that a lot of small farmers and gardeners use them. They minimize soil compaction, and you can also use them to grow in situ mulch. So you can grow a cover crop, cut it down and terminate it, or terminate it however that cover crop needs to be terminated, and use that biomass that is created as mulch. There's like tons of information about cover crops and different ones you can use. There's webinars on our website and additional resources that I'll point you towards through this presentation. I'm not going to go into super detail on those in this. We want to kind of focus on how to use that calculator. But I should say that, cover crops, those are the main purposes of them, but I really like them as a part of a soil health system. This is actually my garden at the SWCD demonstration garden at Eagle Creek, at the Mayor's Garden in Indianapolis. And I use cover crops in tandem with crop rotation, mulching, tarping, nutrient management, and all that allows me to reduce tillage. Vegetable gardening with soil health is what I love to do. So cover crops is a piece of that. This is the next couple of slides are just screenshots of the tool. I should start by saying that this tool is built for two reasons, and they're almost the same, but the two reasons would be to help growers, so farmers, small farmers, gardeners that aren't necessarily thinking in pounds per acre, but rather, pounds and ounces per 70 square feet or 50 square feet. To help have a tool for getting amounts of cover crops and cover crop mixes for small areas. The other purpose is for the Indiana USDA, United States Department of Agriculture Natural Resource Conservation Service, so the USDA NRCS, for those conservation planners to use as a planning tool and an implementation requirement for those NRCS programs. So if you're a grower and you're in an NRCS program in Indiana and you're getting incentivized to plant cover crops, this is the tool that the planner will likely be working with you to just help document and help us plan cover crop mixes for your farm. So This is, and again, we'll pop up the tool in a little bit. This is just a screenshot, but I just wanted to give a couple snapshots of it before we dig into just resources and other things. So this is the face. You at the top, you can see the bed area. So thinking in square feet, this my garden beds are 75 square feet, for example. I'm planting 5 of my beds in this year, which means that 5 times 75 is a total of 375 square feet. For these 5 beds, I'm using an oats and a field pea mix. So these blue are, you'll see they're drop down. So you can actually select the cover crop and then it auto populates what type of cover crop that is. And then I select the rate. We'll get into that. But yeah, it's like the rate for each cover crop, and then it tells me the rate in ounces per 100 square feet. Um, then it automatically, based on the bed area and the number of beds, will tell me how much seed I need per bed and how much total seed I need for those 5 beds. So for these particular cover crop mix, I know I'm going to need 1.8 ounces of oats, 1.7 ounces of peas for each bed, and 8.7 ounces, or a little bit more than a half a pound of oats total, and about 8 ounces of field peas total. The PLS we'll get into a little bit later, but that basically, just to summarize it, it's if you buy seed, 90% of that seed, the pure live seed percentage might be 90%, meaning that 90% of that bag of seed is actually viable seed and you would expect to germinate. So if I were to put 50% in this pure live seed for oats, it would double the seeding rate, knowing that it needs twice the amount of seed to get the desired amount of oats that I want. You'll also see planting method and termination method, which we'll touch a little bit more on in the plan next crop, and a box for notes. And then cost estimate, which we'll also touch on in a bit. So this is kind of like the face of it. I'm going to go to the next slide. That was for a mix that the previous slide was for a mix that we kind of create on our own. So we're choosing individual cover crop species to make a mix. There's also a piece of this tool that allows you to enter a pre-made mix. So this is when you would actually purchase from a seed company a bag of seed that actually already has something like cereal rye, crimson clover, hairy vetch, oats, all combined. So for this, we often rely on the manufacturer or the seed provider's rate. So here, on their website, it said, and on the seed bag, it said, plant at 90 pounds per acre if you're broadcasting it out. So broadcasting just means, spreading the seed on top of the soil surface. So if this is what I'm doing for this particular mix, I'm going to put 90 pounds per acre in. And then it automatically tells me what the rate is in ounces per square feet. And then based on my area of bed and number of beds, so I've got 10 beds, 250 square feet each. Then it tells me how many ounces per bed and how many ounces total of this seed I need, pounds and ounces. So this is a way to handle pre-made mixes. If you are in an NRCS program or in an NRCS planner, we do ask that you check these in the traditional calculator. So there's also a traditional calculator for larger farms, and it has a way of kind of double checking if a pre-made mix meets the NRCS standard and specs for that mix. If you're just a gardener just wanting to learn about cover crops, that might be a little bit too much right now, but this is also meant to help our planners, so I should mention that. And just contact Kara Berschneider or myself if you've got any specific questions about that. With that, I'll make another note on the NRCS programs. If you are in a program, make sure you're keeping your seed tags. So when the bag of seed comes to you, it should come with a little tag on it that says, this percent in this mix, like this is the percentage of oats, this is the percentage of cereal rye. So make sure you keep those tags and send copies to your planner, your district conservationist or NRCS contact. So with that, I'm going to keep on moving on. This next slide is just the summary table. So after you put in several mixes, or one mix or two mixes or 5 mixes, this summary table automatically calculates the square feet that you've planted or that you intend to plant. So for all those mixes that I just covered, I've got 2,875 square feet planned. So that's 3 1,000 square foot blocks or numbers. Don't worry about that if you're not in NRCS programs. And then the total acres rounded up. So yeah, rounding up, it's about zero point 0.1 acres. So this is kind of what you want to concentrate on, though, this 2,875 square feet. Yeah, so we'll talk about rates. We'll talk about divisor, and we'll talk about pure live seed in just a bit. So moving on, to help develop these, I'm gonna, there you go. I also want to say welcome, Kara. Feel free to speak up, jump in whenever you'd like as well. And if nothing else, I'll keep on rolling though. So these are these are these are some resources that we'd recommend you take a look at just to help you think through cover crops and plan. I would suggest not planting a cover crop unless you know how to terminate it. So these documents, they're located on the marionswcd.org/soil health. So under the cover crop section, so take a look at those, really go through that cover crop termination, make sure you know how to terminate or kill a cover crop before actually planting it. So and then this managing cover crops profitably book from Sayer. It's also linked from our website. It's a free resource with a few pages about each cover crop. So I highly recommend checking that out as well. Okay. This is a table, the Indiana cover crop table for small farms and gardens. This table is actually within the seeding tool or the cover crop tool, and is also a PDF on our website. So this is the list of cover crops that one is able to choose from using this tool. So I like when I'm using the tool, I like to have this printed out and kind of sitting by the side, just so I can kind of see, yeah, what are my options, if they're expected to survive the winter or not, and then how are they best terminated. So some of them winter kill or freeze kill, such as buckwheat or oats. If you plant them in the fall, they're going to often die during the winter time. However, if you look at something like rye, winter cereal rye here, you can see that it doesn't freeze kill, it doesn't winter kill. So I would expect that to survive the winter time, and I would need to manage that in a different way in the spring. So in this case, I might use mowing, tarping, or crimping to actually kill that cover crop. Again, check out that termination guide for more information on that. The back page of the Indiana cover crop table for small farms and gardens has a little bit more information about planting. So you can see that the seeding rates are listed here. The next few slides kind of go into depth about how we get those seeding rates, but in general, normal is 100% rate. So a normal rate of cover crops is ounces per 100 square feet. You would expect that species alone, planted at a normal rate, to fill up the entire bed with cover crops, with that cover crop when that plant reaches maturity. So when you first seed it and it's like really, really small, it might look somewhat sparse, but as that plant grows, it's going to fill up the canopy to provide that 100% coverage. Low is half that rate, and then high is double that rate. And then we're going to go through best practices for rates as we go through this. So I just wanted to reiterate this point because it is important in the use of this tool, that the seeding rates that you can choose are low, normal, and high. So again, normal is 100% rate. You would expect the area to have a full canopy of the cover crop when it matures. Low is 50%, which is a half rate. So it might be sparse. So if we were recommending a cover crop, we would recommend two low rates together. So one cover crop at a low rate and another at a low rate to reach 100%, as opposed to just doing a really sparse cover crop by itself. So if we were recommending a single species, we'd likely say normal or high, just to make sure you get that good coverage. So normal is 100%, low is 50, and then high is like a double rate. So twice the amount of seeds. So you're really looking for, weed suppression, or just, a thick cover crop. Yeah, mostly to suppress weeds and get really, really good coverage. This slide reiterates that. So it's a little math heavy, but I think it kind of helps me think through, choosing low and high rates. So I'll let you kind of sit with this example a second. But in general, right, low rate is 50%, plus another low rate of a different species. So 50% plus 50%, and you're at 100% rate. If you were to do a normal plus low, that's 100% plus 50%, you're at 150%. We do kind of like to cap it at 250%. So, that would be like a high rate, which is already a double rate plus a low rate to get 250%. That's kind of like the max we would recommend, just because after that point, you're probably just putting way too much seed out there, and it's not necessarily needed. So anywhere from 100 to 250% is kind of our sweet spot. Just an example of that in pictures. You'll see on the left-hand side, this is that really tall cover crop is cereal rye. Both of these pictures were planted in fall, and I believe both of these pictures were taken in spring. So these cover crops have, endured the wintertime. On the left, you see cereal rye getting really tall, and then a blanket of crimson clover underneath it. So the crimson clover was set at a low rate, cereal rye was high. And on the right, the oats, radish, and crimson clover, the oats are dead already in this picture because they winter killed, but those were all set at low rates. So low plus low plus low. Okay. On the seating table, you'll notice that on the right side, the seating table the cover crop table that I just showed you just a few slides ago, you'll see on the right side, there's the general guidelines for seeding rates and mixes. I'd highly encourage you to read through those best practices, study them. So basically, I'll just read, I'll pick a few, but I do recommend you just go back and check these out. For example, increased rates if primary purpose is weed control. A lot of our, organic or even just normal gardens, we're really trying to get weed suppression done with these cover crops. So yeah, just kind of bump up the rate. So instead of using a normal rate of oats, I might use a high rate just to make sure that I'm getting really, really good coverage. Yeah, decrease rates within a more diverse seed mix. So you don't want to put like a high cereal rye, a high oats, high crimson clover, high hairy vetch together, because you're at like 600%, right? And it's just way too much seed. So we'd want to back each of those down if we're in a really diverse mix. Certain species such as radish, oats, sorghum, staingrass, and cereal rye are highly competitive. So if you're using those in a mix and you don't want them to outcompete other cover crops, then use low rates of those species to just maintain that balanced mixture. Legumes, they tend to be a little bit weaker competitors, so I like to keep those normal or high just to ensure that they get established. This is my friend and I measuring out cover crops. I guess I don't recommend like doing that on a railroad track. This was at the Indianapolis Zoo. There was no trains coming, so we were good. But yeah, choose your measuring spots wisely. But yeah, this is just showing that, once you do get pounds and ounces, like you can measure out that seed that you've got, so you can actually get like a precise, you're not putting on too much seed, you're not putting on too little of seed, you're putting on the right amount, not wasting money, using that efficiently. So yeah, this is just a cool step in on the small garden scale that you can implement. I'm going to point out a couple of those guidelines just to reiterate. I did say that certain species might dominate the mix, so make sure they're low. These are just a good example. So this is oats and crimson clover on the left here. That looks like a balanced, nice mix, just germinating. You can see the oat grass and then the crimson clover legumes filling up that bed. So the oats were at low and the crimson clover was at high. It's great. But on the right, you can see that I set the oats at high and the crimson clover at high and seeded the bed. So I was hoping to get crimson clover that following spring. However, these oats got so thick that they just flopped over and suppressed the crimson clover. So if you really want the legumes to shine in the spring and like actually grow, keep that oats rate at low, just to be able to let the legumes come through and have room to grow and get their sunlight and get their nutrients. Okay, on the tool, there is on the bottom left of each mix, you'll see planting method and termination method. So I just quickly want to show you what resources might be available to help you through that. So you can see that this particular mix, I'm broadcasting plus incorporation, and then I expect it to winter kill. So this next slide shows cover crop seeding methods. And again, there is a cover crop seeding method document that takes you through more detail about these methods. But just briefly, um, this is a corn crop, sweet corn, that's been pushed down and tarped on the left. And then I'm untarping it and I'm ready to plant a cover crop. So I can't really like incorporate the seed into the soil. I can't get that soil like deep, like a half inch even into the soil, because of all that residue, the cover or the actual sweet corn residue. Um, so I'm just broadcasting it out there. And by that, I mean, I'm taking the cover crop seed, what I've measured, and I'm spreading it out with my hand over that area. And then I'm just letting it go. I might add a little bit of compost on top just to maybe try to get a little bit of seed to soil contact, but pretty much just letting it try it on its own. So that's like something that I would do after sweet corn. In the middle here, this was sweet potatoes that was harvested. And that kind of opened up the soil a little bit. When you dig out sweet potatoes, you can see the soil. So I was able to broadcast. So again, measure out the seed, broadcast it out by hand over the area of the bed, and then I used my rake just to kind of lightly fluff it in. And so that would be broadcasting with incorporation. So I'm not burying that seed, an inch or so. I'm just kind of just getting seed to soil contact, maybe a half inch, depending on the seed. And that table can kind of guide you to how deep might be appropriate for each crop. But I'm just trying to get a little bit of seed to soil contact, and you'll get much better germination that way. And then the third option would be like to direct seed. So that's taking a row seeder and actually making rows of seed. So I wanted to hone in a bit more on direct seed and some resources. On our website, we've got a link to the Virginia Association for Biological Farming using manually operated seeders for precision cover crop plantings on the small farm. Awesome document. The cover crop tool may help you get the amount of seed based on, low, normal, high. But if you're actually using the row seeder, this can help you hone in a little bit more about what seed plate to use. So for an earthway seeder, like you can see in the top left here, it tells you that the 22 plate is really good for like vetches. If you're using like rye, for example, the 22 plate, the number 22 plate is also good. So the bottom left, you can see the results of seeding with the row seeder. You can see like oats. Gosh, can't really see that. Yeah, field peas, I think, and then next row, and then oats, and then field peas. So it's a really good way of getting like really good seed to soil contact and good germination. So I usually use a mix of these seeding methods in the garden, kind of depending on what the bed looks like. If it's really clean, there's no residue from the last crop or cover crop, I can really easily use the row seeder. If there's more debris, residue on the bed, then I might look towards broadcasting it out. Yeah. And then cover crop methods, just briefly, there's webinars linked to from our website. And again, that document, the cover crop termination document that I'd suggest you read. But in just a summary, winter kill, mowing or cutting, crimping, tarping, solarization. So using like clear plastic, which we don't recommend too often because of the kind of the threat to soil health if you leave it on for too long, tillage, and then chemical. So these are all ways or methods that you can use in combination or by themselves to kill cover crops. Top left is an example of like oats that winter killed. So that dies during the wintertime. The bottom left shows a gardener that has raked the top growth of those oats into the walkway and then is using compost on top of the beds to prepare for the spring, a spring planting of like greens or beets or early vegetables. The top right is me weed whacking down a legume cover crop. And the bottom right is me tarping it. So that's just a mow / tarp sequence to make sure that cover crop's killed. I know some people are like, gosh, I want more information on that. Again, there's webinars and also like there's a favorite mixes document on our website and some one-pagers and some web pages that kind of detail out some of these strategies in more in depth. So I've got about 6 favorite mixes that I like to hone in on. And again, those are available on our website. But yeah, for example, cereal rye and crimson clover and hairy vetch here on the top, or like oats and legumes here in the middle, or a good summer cover crop like buckwheat at the bottom. Um, I then take like those strategies and I kind of I put them into a crop rotation plan. So, a lot of my cover crops are planted in the fall. You'll see a winter killed cover crop coming in. It dies during the winter time, and I'm planting early cover crops. Or there's a legume cover crop that was planted last fall. I may tarp it, for example, and then plant sweet corn. Untarp it and then plant sweet corn, or a high biomass cover crop like cereal rye and hairy vetch that I crimp, mow, and then tarp. Crimp or mow and then tarp, and then I untarp and then plant sweet potatoes. So this cover crop seeding windows tool, or cover crop seeding windows, is embedded in the Indiana cover crop tool. It's also available on a PDF on our website as well. But I definitely use this and study it to make sure that you're planting the appropriate cover crop at the right time. So after I've planted my vegetables, and then in the winter or the fall, I'm ready to plant. I'm ready to plant fall cover crops. I know that the oats and field peas are appropriately planted in, let's say, August and September. So I'm making sure that I'm planting those particular mixes in that time frame. So almost to the tool, but before that, I just want to say that it really helps to know bed length and bed width, or if not that, then just like their square footage of a bed to help use this tool. So the tool is based on square footage. You enter your square feet of a bed and number of beds, and then it can start telling you how much seed that you need. So this is just an example. The grower's got a walkway of 1.5 feet. The beds are 2.5 feet, and the bed length is 100. Within the tool, there's a place that helps you calculate this. So yeah, the goal would be to get the area. Before I switch over to the tool, just a quick survey. You don't need to do it now, but if you if you can't do it by link, which I will drop in the chat a little bit later, feel free to take a picture of this, or yeah, go to this feedback survey form just to let us know how we're doing. And again, I'll put the link in the chat in a bit. Okay, so to find these tools, I'm just going to go to our website. So Marion SWCD /soil.org/soil health. I just dropped that in the chat, and then I'll also put the feedback in there. So yeah, our website in short time, this tool, the Indiana cover crop tool, will be available on the USDA NRCS Indiana ePhotog, which is the Field Office Technical Guide. So yeah, in very short time, it will be on there. So planners can either use what's existing on, so conservation planners in terms of NRCS can use the existing file that's on the FOTG, or they're welcome to use this updated file, which is on the Marion County Soil and Water Conservation District Soil Health page. So click on Soil Health. You can scroll down to our resource section. So you can see like vegetable crop rotation, and at this cover crop section, it'll do a drop down, and you can start to see our resources. So there's the overview that we spoke of, the table, the seeding methods, the best, our favorite mixes, for example. And then if you scroll a little bit lower, you'll see the Excel version of the cover crop tool. So this is the Indiana cover crop tool spreadsheet Excel version, and then the cover crop tool Google Sheets version. So yeah, both of those work. And then I will shortly list our post this training video as well as the slides under here too, so we can go back and review them. And then more that I'm building out, just resources that I'm building out, just strategies in particular, specific resources to help you through particular mixes and how to use them. There's some links to the webinar, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And then I'm going to share the actual tool so we can get into it. Okay, so give it a second for it to come up. This is the spreadsheet tool. So you'll notice that there's tabs along the bottom. I'm going to scroll down just a bit, and it tells you what these tabs do. So the table is what you've seen already. We really want to focus on this create a mix, cost and totals. I'll show you all these, but really this create a mix is the tab that helps you create the mixes. So before I get to create a mix, just to let you know that the cover crop table is on here. So it's on a PDF on our website as well as embedded in this tool. The seeding windows I'm going to jump to. This is the Indiana cover crop seeding windows that lets you know which cover crop species is best planted at what time. Um, yeah, and then helpful area calculator. So when we go to the create a mix, it's going to ask you for square foot. This helpful area calculator is a decent way to say like to get your square footage that you can put in. So let's say my growing beds, let's say I've got 5 of them, and each of them is 3 feet by 25 feet. So I've got 375 square foot of bed for 5 beds. So I could also do like one growing bed would be 3 times 25. So each of my beds is 75 square feet. So I can enter 75 square feet into the calculator to know exactly how much pounds and ounces or just ounces that I would need. If you've got a circular garden, you can also use the diameter calculator. If you've got some like a community garden with like several raised beds and a lot of like space that's not growing mediums, you can use this to kind of calculate just the non-growing areas versus the growing areas. So for cover crops, I'm usually using this top one just to get the square footage. So let's go back to create a mix. And yeah, this is the tool. This is where most of the work is done. So you can see the summary that we talked about, that how each, as you calculate or as you enter square footage of each mix, it will calculate up here to give you a total. So I'm just going to start filling this out. Kevin will say the SWCD demo garden. Don't worry about tract and field if you're not in an NRCS program, but if you were, you would have a tract and field given to you by the USDA that they would enter in there. So I'm going to be planting cover crops for 2026. So create mixes using the tables below. So as I scroll down, you'll see that mixes 1 to 5 are built by choosing individual species and their desired rates. And then the mixes after that, there's 3 that are pre-made mixes. So you can, if you get a pre-made mix from the seed provider, you can enter in their recommended pounds per acre or pounds per 1,000 square feet, and you can know how many pounds and ounces per your garden. This reiterates the seeding rates and what low, normal, and high means. Divisor, this will be best explained in an example, but basically, if I have 2 legumes in a mix and I want the legume cover crop, the tandem of legumes to be at a high rate, then I could set both of those legumes to high and then use a divisor of 2 because there's 2 legumes in that mix. So it essentially just divides both of those high rates by 2 to give it like the rate in which the combination of those 2 legumes would equal a high rate. So if I had 3 legumes, I would use a divisor of 3. And again, I think just best shown in the example as we move there. Pure live seed. I spoke about this, but that's where you look at the seed tag, and the pure live seed, like on the seed tag, it will have percent purity and percent germination. So you can multiply those 2 together, divide by 100, and you would get a percentage. So if it's 80% and we put 80% into the PLS column of one of these mixes, it's going to bump up that seeding rate by 20% just to account for only 80% of that seed actually being expected to germinate. And again, I'll show you an example for NRCS planners. Once somebody gives you their seed tags, like if they're in a program, NRCS program, they give you their seed tags. It should have the PLS on it or a way to calculate the pure live seed percentage. You can use a planner can then use that to enter that information into the calculator, just to kind of check out that the mix meets our NRCS standards. And again, if you have any questions about that, please contact myself or Kara Schneider from the NRCS. Okay, so I'm going to go down and let's start creating some mixes. So let's say that I've got 75 square foot beds, 5 of them I'm going to be planting in an oats and field peas winter killed cover crop. So if you don't know like what to pick, again, like our resources on our website, like our favorite mixes and some of those one-pagers and websites will give you ideas about what mixes that might be appropriate for a garden, depending on what you're planting next or depending on what your goals are in terms of soil health. So this drop-down menu, I know this might be hard to see on the Zoom screen, But I'm going to go down, and this is just a list of cover crops that was from the table. So I'm going to pick oats. It automatically populates it's a grass. And I'm going to pick field peas. So you would think that they'd be under P, field peas, right, under F, but once you get the hang of it, you'll notice that some of them are, this is listed under P, comma, field. So just bear with it. That's the way that the cover crop list was given to us and is listed in the deep files. So it is P field, but that is a field pea. So it automatically populates that it's a legume. So it's right in the middle of the seeding, like perfect seeding window, September. So I'm going to plant a normal rate of oats, for example, and a normal rate of peas. So if you remember back to our percentages, this is 100% times 100% or plus 100%. So I'm really getting about a 200% mix. So this is like a double seeding rate. So about twice the amount of seed that would need to be like covering the canopy at maturity. So if I were to really think like, gosh, I really want those peas to shine through, maybe I'm okay with dropping that oats down to low to not really shade it out. Like that could happen, right? You could just put that down to low and it adjusts your seeding rate. Let's say it's in like September 25th and it's closer to the end of a seeding window. And by that I mean just it's getting wintertime. And if you plant oats, they're going to die during the wintertime. So they only might get like this big, like a couple inches big before dying. Maybe I'm okay with like increasing that to normal. Just because I want like I know they're going to die, but I want roots in the ground, which count, right? That's good for soil health, even if it's just a little bit. So I'm going to bump up that seeding rate to normal, so I can get more of a coverage before it dies. If I'm brave, I might even put that up to high, just to yeah, and maybe this at low. Yeah, so you can really kind of manipulate the blend. Just think of like, yeah, do I want more oats? Do I want more field peas? What time of year is it? Or do I kind of want it balanced? So I'm going to set this back to normal and normal. Okay. Um, so tells me that the rate ounces per 100 square feet, 2.3 ounces and 2.2 ounces. It tells me the amount of seed per bed that I need. So 1.8 ounces of oats, 1.7 ounces of field peas, and it tells me the total that I need for the 5 beds. So let's say I get my seed tag from the seed company, or I give them a call and say, hey, what's the pure live seed percentage of oats? And they say, okay, it's 80. So I could put 80 in and just watch what happens to the seed per bed. Okay, I'm going to click it and it goes up, right? Because not all that seed is expected to germinate, it's going to raise the amount of ounces. This is important. Like I used to think, gosh, it's probably all close enough to 100, but like sometimes you look at a seed tag and it's like 50. I've seen that on like crimson clover, for example. So like, what if it was 50? Now it's telling me to double the seed. And I really do want to do that because I want, enough cover crops to germinate to make it a good stand. So that's just a way to use pure live seed to adjust the amount of seed that you actually need. Planting method, we went through this, but let's say I'm going to broadcast and incorporate it. And in looking at my table, I know that both of those oats and field peas are going to winter kill. And then my next crop, I'm just going to go like early spring greens. I like to use those winter kill cover crops before beets, for example, spinach. Yeah, there you go. And then make any notes that you might want to make. I'll show you a cost estimate in a little bit, but let's make another mix before we get there. Go down. So just keep scrolling down, right? Here's mix 2 on the next page. So this continues for about 8 pages. We're not going to do 8 mixes, but I wanted to give you at least a few examples. So let's say got a little bit bigger beds, more of like a small farm situation, 250 square feet, and they have like 10 beds. Let's do a kind of a big bulky cover crop that we like what I would call a high biomass cover crop that's going to overwinter. So cereal rye, it's a grass. Let's put some legumes in there like crimson clover and hairy vetch. Those are 2 great legumes. Yeah, vetch, comma, hairy, for example. Okay, so I really want my legume. I want these all to survive, right? I want them all to do well, but I don't want to like overdo the seeding rate. So let's start with normal cereal rye. Just by itself, that would be expected to fill up the bed. fill up the canopy. So I really am, yeah, adding more seed than technically what's needed, but like I just want, yeah, good survival, good solid stand. So let's say crimson clover. I want these legumes to be normal as well. So since there's two legumes in the mix, and I'm thinking that I want the legumes together to be at a normal rate, I can use the divisor of two because there's two legumes. So it cuts those seeding rates in half for the legumes. So between the two legumes, I'm now looking at a normal rate. If I were to add, let's say, field peas or winter peas, for example, something that survives, I might put that at normal as well, and then change the divisor to three for each of these. That's probably like the most complex you can get with this tool, right? Like using the divisor. So in a lot of situations, you don't need it, but this is just an example of how and when you might use that. Let's say I direct seed these with the row seeder, and based on the termination method guide, I know that I might either mow or cut this or crimp it in the spring. So let's say I crimp it, which is pushing it down um, and flattening it out, and then I want to tarp it. Okay, so I might make a note that says like plant in fall, crimp in spring 25 days before planting crop, tarp for 25 days, and then untarp, and then plant crop. So you can make little notes just to kind of yeah help guide your planning. And I like sweet potatoes. I use this mix for a lot of things, but like sweet potatoes, tomatoes, even peppers. Excuse me. So yeah, there's one more mix. Um, let's try two more. Gonna go down to mix three. Let's say that on two of my beds, and let's make them 200 square feet. I'm gonna do a summer crop, cover crop of buckwheat. I'm gonna use it by itself, and I just want a good solid thick stand. So I'm gonna give it a high rate, and I'm gonna plant it with a row seeder, direct seeding it, and termination. I'm gonna mow or cut it when it's flowering, and it might kill it, but just to make sure, I'm going to tarp it for just maybe a couple weeks just to make sure it's dead. And then after that, I'm going to plant like fall brassicas. Yeah, so that's a pretty quick and easy way of just getting a good rate for buckwheat. So you can see like sorry, I messed that up. Yeah, area bed is not two, it is actually 200, and the number of beds is two. That makes a difference. Yeah, make sure I get that right. So yeah, this now tells you that you need 4 ounces of buckwheat for that bed and 8 ounces between the two. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down past, there's like mix four and mix five. I'm gonna scroll down to one pre-made mix. So here's a pre-made mix where you go and you buy a bag that's got cover crops or a mix of cover crops already in it. Let's say I'm planting a big area, for example, 1,000 square feet, and I'm just doing one bed. So just one garden area, right? I'm going to make a note of what cover crops are in that mix. So I'm going to look at my seed tag or on the website, and let's say it's very similar to the one we did earlier, hairy vetch. Say it's got some crimson clover in it. It's got some oats. Again, keep your seed tag. Make sure you get those in the NRCS planner if you're in an NRCS program. On the website or on the seed tag, it will tell you the rate generally. If not, contact us. But if it gives you a rate in pounds per acre, you can put that in. So I'm going to say 90 pounds was what was on this seed tag. And it tells you the rate, it converts the rate to ounces per 100 square feet, and then tells you how much you need per bed and how many pounds of ounces you need per total area. It's a pretty handy way of just yeah, taking a big like what a mix that's usually yeah, hard to calculate for small areas and giving you precisely what you need to measure out and plant for that area. If for some reason they give you the rate in pounds and 1,000 square feet, you can put that as well in there, and then it will translate that to amount of seed per bed, etc. Usually, I find that these mixes are in pounds per acre, so I'll leave it at that. Again, let's broadcast this. Maybe just we're tossing it out there. Actually, let's try to get in the ground a little bit to get good germination, and then we'll terminate it by we'll say we mow it and then we'll tarp it for 25 days and plant afterwards. Okay, so there's also a couple more pre-made mixes below this. I'm going to scroll back to the top just to let you know that it's calculating the total area. So all the areas and beds that we've put into this calculator so far, it's giving us a total. So 4,275 square feet is what we have planned for this year. If you're doing another year, I recommend just doing the first year and then making a copy of this file and then calling it 2027. If the grower has wants to do, if you want to do exactly the same thing, yeah, it's easy. If you want to make some changes to the areas or the mixes, then you can do that in that next file. So yeah, just this gives you a good summary of how much area that you're going to do. The next thing I wanted to cover is cost and totals. So I'm going to click this cost and totals sheet. And from that sheet that we just played with, it's going to bring the total pounds of all those mixes into this spreadsheet. And this is just a way of these costs and prices have nothing to do with NRCS payments or anything. This is just how much it might cost a person to buy and plant the cover crop seed. So for example, like it tells you the total pounds within all those mixes. So we could start talking about prices. So I didn't automatically populate cost per pound because it's so variable. Some like you could get it from a local store, you could get it online. Like these, the price is going to change so much that I felt that I couldn't really put in an automatic number here. So just do your homework, look about price per pound. Find the price per pound on the website or just ask the dealer. But for example, I did a quick kind of synopsis here. Let's just say that's 70 cents. That's $2.60. Oats was like 50. Field peas, $1. That was $5. Actually, this was 60 cents. Yeah, so you can start filling the winter peas. You can start filling the cost per pound. And it's going to tell you that the total cost for all mixes and basically taking the total pounds times the cost per pound. So we know that we need 0.5 pounds of buckwheat. So what if we go online and see that we can only buy it in volumes of 1 pound or 5 pounds? Like let's say we only have available like a 5-pound bag. So I would need to put 5 pounds, and then it would tell me that the cost of pounds to obtain would be about $8.50. If I were to find a 1-pound bag online, then I could put 1 pound, and then it would just be a 70-cent bag, right? So of course, take into account shipping, maybe in your cost per pound, take into account the shipping, because sometimes that can be a big chunk of it. So I need at least a pound of crimson clover. Like this is 3 pounds of rye. I get a 5-pound bag. Maybe I get 10 pounds and save some for next year, right? Say a 5-pound bag of that. So you can start really dialing in your, now I've got 5 pounds of hairy vetch where I only needed 1. So maybe I just get like a 1-pound bag, or maybe 2 1-pound bags, depending on what the seed provider provides. So that kind of just tells you how many pounds you're going to need, the total cost of pounds to obtain. So hopefully that's just a helpful way to think through like purchasing cover crops. There is a cover crop seed provider list on our website under the cover crop section that hopefully is helpful. If you find another seed provider that's not on that list, please let us know. One last tab, I believe, is the secondary species. So this is one that most gardeners aren't really going to have to use. It really comes into play with NRCS programs when you're in a program and an NRCS program for cover crops. Basically, it says that species in the green, like we want you to use that list that from the table, the cover crop table. So any of those when I was doing the drop downs on the creative mix, any of those species are perfectly fair game for Indiana. They're tried and true. They're what we recommend. So get those seeding rates, but if you're get the seeding rates from the table and that calculator. But if you're wanting to add in some extra, we're not recommending that you do these as standalones, species. So we're not saying, just do a chickpea cover crop. But if you're adding a little bit, these should be a minor component added just for additional diversity. So if you're in an inner CS program and you're wanting to add like beets and chard to a cover crop mix, this just work with your planner and they will just be like, yes, yes, depending on what you want to add, just as a minor component to those mixes. Um, there is some species in red. We we don't recommend these. Just avoid them whenever possible. Mostly because they're well, not mostly, but mainly because they are yeah, just aggressive. Yeah, aggressive, and we're just not recommending them. So that includes sweet clover, mustards, and perennial ryegrass. If you work with your planner and absolutely feel like you need to plant those three species, there are very like rigorous parameters, guidelines that you would need to follow that if you're in an NRCS program and using those. So best case scenario, just avoid them. Stick with the normal cover crops, maybe add in some minor components if you feel like you need to. But the normal cover crops are usually enough to get us the soil health boost we need. Um, so I think with that, I'm not sure there's anything else I really need to cover on here. I guess thank you. And if there's any questions, Carrie, you're welcome to jump in or not. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there. And if you got any questions, just please let us know.